Anakin paced restlessly around the council chamber on Coruscant, his hands clenched and his heart in turmoil. His thoughts turned to Padme and the visions of her death, images that tormented him night after night. The idea of sitting there while she was in danger seemed absurd. The sunset bathed the city in gold, but inside him everything was darkness and anxiety. He was already inclined to abandon the council and rush to Palpatine when an unexpected presence changed the course of his steps. The spirit of Qui-Gon Jinn appeared before him, firm but serene. "Stay here, Anakin," said Qui-Gon, his voice echoing like an order and a request at the same time. The young man turned, surprised, but without losing his angry expression. "I can't. If I do nothing, Padme will die. I saw her. I felt the pain, and I can't sit and wait while everything is lost." With each word, his tone increased, showing the despair growing inside him. Qui-Gon, however, remained unmoved. He just kept his arms crossed and his gaze fixed, conveying calm amid the chaos. "You are acting out of fear, not clarity. That is what Palpatine wants." Anakin ran his hand through his hair, pacing in circles like a caged animal. "Fear or not, Master, she is my wife. I will not let her die. I must intervene now before it is too late." His face reflected the mixture of pain and anger that consumed him. Qui-Gon approached, and even though he was only a luminous apparition, he seemed more solid than Anakin's convictions. "If you run now, you will fall right into the trap set for you. It's not courage, it's recklessness. The Force did not bring you this far to give in to panic." The windows of the room revealed the city alive, but Anakin saw only fire in his mind. "Then what should I do? Sit and wait while she suffers? When I lost my mother, they also asked me to be patient, and the result was her death in my arms. I will not repeat that mistake." Qui-Gon's spirit remained firm. "You will not repeat the mistake if you learn not to be a slave to your emotions. The Force has shown you visions so that you may learn to master them, not so that you may become hostage to them. The future is not yet written, and your haste is Sidious's greatest weapon." Anakin stopped in front of one of the council chairs, leaning heavily on it as if he needed something to keep him from collapsing. "I've always been treated like an outsider, like a stranger within the Order, and now you ask me to be calm, when everything in me cries out for action. The Council has never trusted me, Master. Why should I trust them now?" Qui-Gon moved closer, his voice laden with a firmness that left no room for doubt. "Because it is not the Council that needs to earn your trust, Anakin. It is the Force, and if you surrender to it instead of fear, you will see the right path." The young Jedi looked away, clenching his teeth. He remembered every conversation with Palpatine, the promises of unlimited power, the words that seemed to bring comfort. What if Palpatine is right? What if the Council just wants to use me and then discard me? Qui-Gon did not waver. "Palpatine offers you no power, only chains. He knows your pain, your anger, and wants to turn them into shackles. The power he promises is empty, built on your own destruction. True power lies in changing yourself, not forcing fate." Anakin sat heavily in his chair, resting his elbows on his knees and burying his face in his hands. "What if staying here means losing her? What will be left of me if Padme dies?" Qui-Gon's answer was quick, as if he had already prepared it. "Wisdom will remain. The chance to become the Jedi the galaxy needs will remain. You cannot save Padme if you do not first learn to save yourself from the darkness. Staying is the hardest choice, but it is also the only one that can prevent your downfall." The words echoed, harsh but true. Anakin's comlink vibrated at his waist, bringing hurried voices and confusing military codes. He almost reached for it, but Qui-Gon raised his hand. "Wait, watch. If you answer and run, you will fall into the trap. The Force brought you here to stay. Trust this moment, not the impulse." Anakin hesitated, his hand trembling over the device, but slowly withdrew, setting it aside. The silence that followed was heavy, but it also brought a strange relief. For the first time, he realized he still had a choice. Qui-Gon approached, looking directly into Anakin's eyes. "I cannot fight this battle for you. I can only guide you, but it is up to you to choose whether you will be a servant of the Force or a slave to your fears. Which will it be, Anakin? The young man took a deep breath, looked up, and faced the spirit with wavering determination. Then I'll stay, but if anything happens to Padme, I'll never forgive myself. Qui-Gon nodded with an almost paternal look. It's not forgiveness you need, but wisdom, and that only comes when patience overcomes haste. Night began to fall over Coruscant, painting the skies in shades of red and orange. In the silent room, Anakin Skywalker had made a simple decision, but one that would change everything. To stay. Not to run, not to give in to rage, but to wait. For him, it seemed like the greatest sacrifice of his life. For the galaxy, it was the beginning of a change that would rewrite destiny. The spirit of Qui-Gon remained by his side, like a shadow of light, witnessing Anakin's first step toward a different path. While Anakin remained in the council, tension grew in another tower of Coruscant. Mace Windu and other masters had already confronted Palpatine, who finally revealed his true identity as a Sith Lord. Energy bolts exploded against the walls, lightsabers ignited, and the room turned into a battlefield. Anakin sensed the fight from a distance through the Force, but restrained himself thanks to the words of Qui-Gon. The young man remained, still torn, but for the first time choosing not to act on impulse. The spirit of his former master simply said, "This is how the galaxy is liberated, Anakin. Not by your fury, but by the courage to wait." The combat reached its peak when Windu managed to disarm Sidious, placing the saber at his neck. In other times, Anakin would have rushed in to intervene, fearing that the Jedi Master was about to make an irreversible mistake. But now he remained, and his absence changed destiny. Sidious, without allies, found no way out. Mace advanced decisively, and with one decisive blow, the Sith was defeated. The cry of his death echoed like thunder through the Force, shaking every sensitive being in the galaxy. Anakin felt the energy wave, but did not move. The silence that followed was heavy. The Jedi present looked at Palpatine's body, realizing they had destroyed the greatest enemy they had faced in centuries. However, Qui-Gon warned Anakin, who was concerned about Padme, "Do not mourn." He planned far beyond his own life. The real test begins now. The words sounded almost like an omen, and soon strange signals began to appear on military communicators. Encrypted transmissions were intercepted, triggering protocols that had been hidden within the Republic's own system. Palpatine did not intend to lose the game, even in death. In the clone barracks, obedience chips began to activate automatically. It was not Order 66 as Sidious had planned, but a variation left as a final contingency. About 30 to 40% of the soldiers received the command and immediately turned against their Jedi generals. In battles scattered across the galaxy, knights were surprised by unexpected shots, and many fell without even understanding what was happening. Other soldiers, however, resisted, fighting against their programming and protecting the Jedi at their side. Confusion spread, creating a war within the cloned Brotherhood itself. At the same time, Contingency Eclipse was activated. Unmanned ships, hidden in secret docks, received automated orders to attack strategic Republic systems. Key planets saw fleets emerge from hyperspace without warning, bombarding cities and command centers. It was as if Palpatine's shadow still loomed over the galaxy, even after his death. The Jedi's victory in the Senate quickly turned into new chaos, and many senators began to question whether the Order had truly eliminated the threat or merely unleashed an even more dangerous one. Within the council, Anakin stood up, feeling the weight of what was happening. "I knew it wouldn't be that simple." He left traps, networks of destruction that now spread across the galaxy. "While we are here, more Jedi are dying." Qui-Gon approached, firm. "And that is precisely why you needed to stay. If you had gone to Palpatine, you would have fallen into his plans. Now you can lead a response, without the chains he tried to impose on you." The words rekindled Anakin's determination, but also increased the responsibility on his shoulders. The news came quickly. Distress messages came from Kashyyyk, from systems in the core and the outer rim. Each communique brought reports of betrayal, of clones turning against the Jedi, and of internal battles that left irreparable wounds. "We are losing knights in every sector," reported one messenger. "Some detachments are resisting, but others have been completely consumed by the hidden order." Anakin clenched his fists, feeling the weight of the tragedy. Even with Palpatine's death, the order was paying a heavy price. Amid the confusion, another secret began to surface. Hidden files found in Palpatine's own office revealed that some Jedi had already been secretly corrupted. They were called Secret Inquisitors, double agents prepared to reveal themselves when the time came. Now, with the death of the Sith Master, they awoke from their concealment, attacking allies and plunging the Order further into mistrust. Betrayal came not only from outside, but also from within. Each new report increased the tension among the survivors, making it clear that the war was far from over. Anakin listened to these reports in silence, feeling that part of the fate he had so feared was happening even without his intervention. Padme could be in danger, the Republic was collapsing, and the Jedi were being hunted even without a Sith in command. But there was one crucial difference. He had not yet fallen to the dark side. Qui-Gon spoke again. "Don't blame yourself for the deaths you couldn't prevent. Blame the shadow that blinded everyone for decades. Now is the time to rebuild, even if it's from the ashes." The words sounded harsh, but they gave Anakin unexpected clarity. Palpatine's body was taken as evidence to the Senate, where the impact was immediate. Many senators did not know how to react. Some celebrated, believing that the threat was over. Others, however, accused the Jedi of assassinating the Supreme Chancellor, seeing them as usurpers who had seized power by force. Political chaos joined military chaos, turning Coruscant into a field of internal disputes. It was in this environment that Padme realized she would need to take on a greater role, for without clear leadership, the Republic would fall into ruin before it could even reorganize. Meanwhile, the surviving Jedi began to regroup. Many were wounded, others had lost their Padawans or masters. The pain was collective, and confidence in the Order itself had been shaken. "We haven't seen the Sith in front of us for years," said one master, "and now we're paying the price." Anakin listened to these words, but unlike what would happen before, he didn't just feel anger. He felt responsibility. The time to rebel against the Council was over. It was time to lead. In the Council chamber, now empty and marked by the silence of war, Anakin looked at the central chair. "Perhaps it is time to rewrite everything. If we continue as before, the Jedi will disappear. I will not allow Palpatine's vision to become reality." Qui-Gon replied, "Then lead, Anakin. But lead with your heart, not with chains." The young man nodded, finally understanding that staying had been the right choice. Sidious's fall did not bring immediate peace, but it paved the way for a new era, where every decision would shape the future of the Jedi Order and the Republic. Emergency transmissions arrived every minute at the Jedi Temple. In many sectors of the galaxy, knights were being attacked by their own soldiers. The partial activation of the chips caused part of the armies to turn against their generals, while others resisted with all their might, trying to protect those who had fought alongside them for years. The scene was chaotic and bloody, with planets like Kashyyyk and Utapau in flames. It soon became clear that the victory against Sidious had cost more than anyone could have imagined. Inside Coruscant, the temple became a refuge and a fortress. Wounded Jedi were brought in from all corners, carried by clones who had resisted the commands and now also bore the mark of suspicion. No one knew who to trust. Some knights murmured in despair, wondering how they had been so blind for so many years without noticing Palpatine's control over the entire Republic. Others just cried silently over the bodies of fallen Padawans and masters. The Order was in ruins, even with the death of the enemy. Amidst this scenario, Anakin received news that completely shifted his attention. Padme was going into labor. The young Jedi's heart raced, and all his anger and anguish gave way to the dread of losing what he loved most. He ran to the chambers where doctors and droids were working to keep the senator stable. Upon entering, he saw her lying there, pale but determined, holding his hand. "You're here," she said with effort between contractions. "I'm not going anywhere," Anakin replied, trying to hide the fear in his voice. Padme's cries mingled with the city's alarms, which still suffered from attacks by the Eclipse contingency's automated ships. Distant explosions shook the windows, reminding everyone that the fate of the galaxy was at stake as new lives came into the world. Anakin knelt beside Padme, sweating, more nervous than in any battle he had ever faced. He caressed her forehead, whispering words of encouragement, even as his own voice trembled. "Everything will be fine, I promise." Outside the room, messengers came and went, bringing battle updates and requests for orders. Anakin ignored them all, for at that moment his priority was singular. When the doctors announced that the first baby was coming, he held Padme's hand tightly, feeling her strength and fragility at the same time. A cry filled the room, and a boy was placed in her arms. "Luke," Padme whispered, tears streaming from her tired eyes. Anakin touched the little face, moved as he had never been before. But there was no time to rest. Minutes later, the second child began to be born. Padme screamed in pain, and Anakin remained steadfast, almost begging the Force to protect her. When the girl finally came into the world, relief washed over everyone in the room. Padme looked at her and said, "Leia." The name echoed like a promise of hope amid the chaos. Anakin held both children in his arms for a moment, feeling something he had never felt before. A love so great that it surpassed any fear or anger. For the first time, he understood what it really meant to protect. However, the tension did not subside. Explosions still rocked the city, and news of more Jedi deaths continued to arrive. A messenger rushed in, almost interrupting the moment. "General Skywalker, many have fallen on Felucia, and others are asking for guidance on Kashyyyk. We need orders now." Anakin handed the babies back to the doctors and stood up, his gaze hardening. "Tell everyone to hold out, to trust their loyal soldiers and bring the survivors to Coruscant. I'll take care of the rest." Padme called out to him before he left. "Anakin, you can't lose yourself now. Our children need you more than any war." He turned, looking at her intently. "I know, and it is precisely for them that I will not let this galaxy fall. Sidious is dead, but his shadow still tries to destroy us. I will end this, Padme, and I will come back to you." The words were spoken with a firmness that surprised even the senator herself, who smiled, exhausted but confident. As Anakin prepared to return to the council, some of the clones who had resisted the activation of the chips came forward, asking for protection and explaining how they had fought against their own brothers. Some Jedi accepted them, thanking them for their loyalty. Others, still traumatized, could not look at them without remembering the betrayal they had suffered. The Order was now divided not only between the living and the dead, but between trust and distrust. It was a wound that would take generations to heal. Inside the council, the empty chairs showed the extent of the tragedy. Of the many masters who had sat there, few had survived. Anakin, still weighed down by the fact that he had just become a father, looked around and realized that the fate of the Order now rested on his shoulders. "We cannot continue as before," he said aloud to those present. "If we repeat the same mistakes, the next shadow will destroy us. We must change." The statement echoed, making it clear that a new era was about to begin. In the corridors, doctors carried the newborns to safety while Padme was stabilized after giving birth. The cries of Luke and Leia mingled with the distant sounds of war, a reminder that life still flourished even amid the ruins. For Anakin, that sound was louder than any explosion. He knew that, for his children and for Padme, he needed to become not just a warrior, but the leader that the Jedi and the galaxy demanded at that moment. Days after giving birth, Padme was already able to get up with some strength. Her face still showed signs of fatigue, but her eyes had the same determination she had when she faced the Senate. The war was not over, and the Republic was collapsing. Many were calling for clear leadership, and all eyes turned to her, the senator who had survived Palpatine's fall and still inspired confidence. Padme accepted the responsibility, aware that she could no longer be just the voice of diplomacy, but also of reconstruction. If we don't act now, there will be nothing left for our children to inherit, she said in a firm speech before the senators. While Padme consolidated her political position, Anakin was on the streets and in the skies of Coruscant, leading offensives against the last secrets left by Sidious. The Eclipse contingency still launched attacks on strategic worlds, and autonomous droids spread destruction without direct command. Anakin gathered small squads of surviving Jedi, guiding them with surprising precision. His intuition seemed sharper than ever. He knew where the attacks would come from, as if the Force warned him seconds before. This instinct saved dozens of lives, reinforcing his image as the natural leader of the Order. A new challenge arose when Palpatine's secret inquisitors revealed themselves. They were former Jedi, quietly corrupted, who now attacked their former brothers with relentless fury. Anakin encountered them in the dark corridors of the temple, engaging in intense duels that echoed like thunder in the heart of the Republic. "You are nothing but slaves to a ghost," he shouted, swinging his blue lightsaber against two opponents at once. The clash of blades illuminated the darkness, revealing not only fury on Anakin's face, but also control, something he had previously lacked. He was different, more mature, aware of the weight of each blow. Mace Windu, still alive after his confrontation with Palpatine, joined Anakin in one of these battles. The Purple Saber Master watched the young man's every move closely, impressed by the speed and discipline he now displayed. "You've changed, Skywalker," Windu said between blows. Anakin replied without missing a beat. "I had to change. If we don't learn from our mistakes, all of this will have been in vain." This exchange marked the beginning of a mutual respect that had never existed between them. Together, they defeated a group of inquisitors who were trying to set fire to the temple archives. On another front, Obi-Wan fought alongside Anakin, reliving the days of the Clone Wars. But now there was something different between them. The resentment Anakin had harbored seemed to dissipate, replaced by renewed confidence. In the midst of a battle against a double-bladed Inquisitor, Obi-Wan remarked, "You lead like never before, Anakin. Perhaps this has always been your destiny." The young man smiled, blocking an attack and counterattacking with precision. "I am no longer a slave to visions, Obi-Wan. Now I follow the Force, not fear." These words echoed as proof of his transformation. Yoda, arriving from Kashyyyk after weeks of resistance, joined the final battles against Palpatine's last traps. Watching Anakin face multiple enemies alone and emerge victorious, he murmured to Windu, "Changed he is. Grown, matured. Balance in him flourishes." During the battle, Yoda also fought alongside Anakin, and the small master realized that the young man had ceased to be just an impetuous apprentice and had become a true warrior of the Force. "Confidence in you now I have," he said after they repelled an offensive by the Inquisitors together. Each fight increased Anakin's confidence in himself, but more than that, it increased his serenity. He no longer let himself be carried away by anger. When an Inquisitor tried to provoke him by mentioning Padme and the children, Anakin just closed his eyes for a moment and replied, "My love for them strengthens me, it does not enslave me." He then disarmed the enemy without killing him, showing a level of control that would have been impossible before. This gesture made it clear to all the Jedi around him that Anakin had truly matured. Operations against the Eclipse contingency droids were also led by Anakin. He guided the Republic fleets in space battles reminiscent of the greatest campaigns of the Clone Wars. With precise movements, he destroyed command centers hidden in asteroids and secret bases, cutting the backbone of the network left by Sidious. Reports said that Anakin seemed to see beyond time, predicting enemy movements even before the sensors picked them up. This intuition saved thousands of lives and consolidated his position as the undisputed military leader. Padme, recovered from childbirth, followed these advances in the Senate. Her firm leadership united senators who had previously been divided. Now she was not only the voice of peace, but the hand that rebuilt the political rubble. In her speech, she made it clear, "The Republic will not fall again into the hands of tyrants. If we need to fight, we will fight. If we need to negotiate, we will negotiate, but always with justice." Her gaze met Anakin's on the rare occasions they met, and there was the certainty that, together, They were shaping a new future for their children and for the galaxy. With each victory, the surviving Jedi looked upon Anakin with greater respect. The young man who had once been seen as impulsive now became a symbol of hope. His decisions were firm, his words inspiring, and his maturity surprised even the oldest masters. When the last ships of the Eclipse contingency were finally destroyed and the Inquisitors were hunted down, a sense of relief swept over the Order. There were still deep wounds, but the worst was over. At the Jedi Council, in a discreet ceremony, Anakin was officially named a Jedi Master. The words sounded solemn, but to him they meant more than any title. They were recognition of his transformation. Obi-Wan placed his hand on his shoulder, proud. Windu nodded silently, finally respecting him. And Yoda declared, "Master, you are now Skywalker, but greater than the title, your wisdom has become." Anakin humbly replied, "I don't want to be remembered for my victories, but for the hope I managed to preserve." Padme, as the new leader of the Republic, and Anakin, as a Jedi Master, became pillars of an era of reconstruction. Both knew there would still be challenges, but now they had something greater than fear or power. They had maturity, intuition, and courage. Together, they represented proof that even after the greatest falls, the galaxy could be reborn. As the years passed, peace began to take hold, but the weight of the battles took its toll. Yoda, now very old, left this world in silence, becoming one with the Force. His departure marked the end of an era and made way for new leadership. Anakin was then appointed Grand Master of the Jedi Order and immediately initiated profound reforms. He abolished rules that repressed feelings, encouraged bonds of trust between masters and apprentices, and taught that the Force should be lived in balance, not as a prison. Luke, still young, became his Padawan, learning not only techniques but also his father's mistakes and lessons. Leia, in turn, followed in the footsteps of Padme, now Chancellor of the Republic, taking on political and diplomatic roles, ensuring that hope would never be extinguished. And all this was only possible because, years earlier, Qui-Gon Jinn believed in the boy from Tatooine, found the Chosen One, and never stopped guiding him along the path of light.